I am very, very privileged to be interviewing my next guest. Her name is Laura Reid from the Big Island. Listen to her resume, guys. Podcaster, professional speaker, a marketing trainer for storytelling, which will be her interview will be focused on how we allow our stories and our children's stories sometimes. We'll talk about that. And presentation coach, which I probably could use, and top honors in international speech contest. That is just amazing. Oh, and then I have to add a mom of a 16-year-old son on top of that. So let's talk about balance first. And then, of course, how the negative stories we tell ourselves as parents, how does that influence the stories our children tell themselves?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm feeling a little stressed out now listening to the things I do I'm supposed to be doing, and now I
So
need to
right
talk
now,
about
it's just
balance.
us talking story. Yeah.
No, thank you so much, Karen, for that intro. And here's how I see balance, especially as, a working mom trying to manage everything, is that there actually is no achieving balance. There's always going to be something that is a little bit lopsided in it. If you think about your life as like a wheel and the different segments of it, and maybe you're giving a lot of attention suddenly to your health and going to the gym every day, working out every day, that's wonderful. And that's going to add kind of pump in more air to the other things. But I don't think you ever are fully balanced because the more attention you give to one thing, the less it's going to be to the other. So to me, balance is about learning how to prioritize what's most important. And for me, the most important kind of part of that wheel would be self love. Because if I'm loving myself as much as I can, showing up for myself is how I would define that, and owning my own story too, then I can really truly love others at a much deeper level. Not just saying I love you, but really showing them my love for them. And that's what balance is for me.
I love that because I think a lot of us are, focusing on self-care, which has been lacking in a lot of our lives, but we don't know. Do you know? I mean, how do you practice self-love? I mean, we know the concept of love, we say I love you, but self-love is a whole different thing. And I think as a mom, right?
Yeah.
Self-love, what is that? Because we're constantly criticizing ourselves on what we're not doing right.
Yeah, you hit on a really big point, criticizing ourselves. I think all of us have that inner critic that probably came about, maybe even in our childhood where we started to doubt ourselves and our dreams and who we are, compare ourselves to others, that imposter syndrome kicks in as well. So we constantly have that chatter going on in our minds, and that does prevent us from really listening to our true selves and what we really want. For me, self love is about shedding some of those layers. I've used an analogy before of, like layers of clay start to get piled on top of who you are, your authentic self. One is self doubt, one is the inner critic, one is, comparison, all of that. And we forget we can't even see who we really are anymore. And so to me, self love is about kind of, taking a chisel and a hammer and starting to like crack open some of those layers and see that inner light and then accept it. And that doesn't mean just accepting the parts of yourself that are easy to love. Maybe those are some of the parts we show on Instagram and Facebook, like, oh, I look really pretty. I'm going to show that photo today,
Yes, yes.
but showing everything, really loving all those parts of yourself, even the parts you're a bit ashamed of. And for me personally, when I started to really own my own story, which is growing up as a person who stutters, grew up with a severe stutter, that really gave way to a lot of self doubt and social anxiety and intense fear of public speaking, which is ironically what I do now
Yes, I'm like,
today
wait a
to
minute.
help
How did
others.
this path
I know.
turn into not just, oh, I'm really good at public speaking, but entering contests and then earning top honors in international speech, right? Contests. How
Yeah.
did you even fathom that
It's
path?
owning your story again, that self-love. When I began to finally accept, those parts of myself that I tried to hide, I hid my stutter forever. In fact, it's still, I've learned a lot of tricks, but it still comes up every once in a while. I'll get stuck on a word, but Even 10 years ago, I had a really hard time like introducing myself in front of a group. If I saw introductions as part of an agenda, I would just start to have a panic attack. And I knew something really had to change. And ironically, and I believe this is true for a lot of people, the thing that you fear is what can actually set you free.
I totally
And
believe that.
yeah, when decided, I couldn't take it anymore as I was living in fear every day. It's actually a very exhausting way to live, to pretend to be someone you're not, right? Kind of that fake it till you make it, which I don't
Hmm.
really buy into. It's really exhausting to do that every day, and you're not really being true to yourself. When I decided, I've always been a writer, I've always wanted to share my story verbally, just physically hadn't found my voice. It wasn't just a metaphor. It was like I didn't have a voice, to share. When I got up on a stage one day and entered a storytelling competition, it was about maybe over 15 years ago. And I told my story, like told my story of growing up with a stutter, how nervous I was. There was something really empowering, even though I was petrified of being there on the stage, sharing my story, owning it finally, all that, like everything I've been embarrassed by about myself. And I won that competition, and it really gave me just this boost of adrenaline, confidence. I'm like, I want to keep doing this, right? And that really started me on that path to where I am now. And I'm living
Wow.
proof. And I know I can really empathize with my clients who I work with to overcome fear. I'm like, look, if I could do it, like I couldn't even say I'm Laura in front of three people. If I can get up there now and enter these contests and speak in front of hundreds of people, uh, you can do it. So yeah.
That's an amazing story. Yeah, I was, people who know me now and I talk a mile a minute. When I was in kindergarten, I couldn't say here. And the teacher would say, everyone close your eyes, close your ears, Karen. And I would be, but on the playground, I was fine. But in the classroom, I think, I don't know why, I'm not, and then we would practice at home saying here. And
Oh,
then when it came,
wow.
yeah, and when it came, did you do it? No. And it's a fear and it will haunt you, jury duty. I'm like, oh my gosh, it's roll call. And then you think back and people are like present here. So I'm like practicing. Okay, I'm just gonna say
Yeah.
here.
No, me
So
too. I'm
yeah.
there even just saying here. Yeah, and like in grade school going around the room, I would count how many paragraphs if we all had to read a paragraph and
Yeah.
try to figure out if I could say the first word or not. And of course I never could. So I'd go hide in the bathroom or something. Oh my goodness. It's fear of judgment. I mean, that's what it comes
That's
down
what it
to.
is. That's
Yeah,
what
and
it
when
is.
we let
Fear of
go of that
judgment.
fear of judgment and the outcome, that's how I approach a lot of the speech contests now too. It's not about winning or anything. It's about releasing myself from the outcome of whatever's going to happen and just owning my message, like being in love with the message I get to. I don't have to. I get to share with people and hopefully inspire them. And when you get up and share a story, you give others that permission to do the same. And that's what I live for, really, is inspiring other people to lean in more to their vulnerability, their authenticity, and then they'll get up and do that, and they're going to inspire more people. So it just creates this beautiful ripple effect.
So, speaking of, I mean, we were talking about earlier parenting, and the stories that we tell ourselves. And sometimes, do you agree that we want so much for our child to have we pre-write our children's story, right? Whether it is, oh my gosh, there, because my students will tell me, right? Yeah, my mom said that I'm a bad reader, or yeah, my mom said I have a hard time doing math, and they just own that story without realizing that the story can be rewritten. So how do you think
Yeah.
moms and dads, grandmas and grandpas, uncles and aunties, how can we empower our children to rewrite like the negative part? I mean, you own it, but not let it control you, right? Not let it, like
Yes.
the fear of I'm
Yes.
bad at math, the fear of I can't write a paragraph. What can parents do to help them write it like a positive story and maybe not judge their weaknesses?
It's such an important question, Karen, and it's like something I'm really committed to. I have a background in education. I used to teach young children and talk to parents about this very question. And for me, it's about always meeting children where they are, not necessarily where you want them to be, right? Meeting them where they are and letting them know that whatever makes them them is how it's meant to be. That's what really makes them special. And your story doesn't ever have to define you. It can be a part of you, but it doesn't define who you are. And I know what you mean. Like I was told, over and over I was bad at math for whatever reason, I don't know. I didn't do the homework or whatever, but that stayed with me my whole life.
Yes.
And to this day I believe it. And then when I go to do math, I'm like, I'm fine at math. Like why have I always thought,
But you were
I
taught.
couldn't.
I mean, yeah, I was taught in fifth grade. We did that music assessment, and I was told I don't have a music ability. So I
Yeah.
said, well, I'm not going to ever even attempt music. I don't sing. I don't do karaoke. I don't, I can't even, I
Yeah,
don't like
no,
to
me
sing happy
too.
birthday, like in a
Yeah,
group,
no, me
you
too.
just
And
mouth
I
it.
love singing. But the point is, I think to show children
Yes.
to do things not because they're going to be the best at it, and not even because it might be your career or something you're like talented at. Do it because it brings you joy. Just that. When my son was 5, I asked him just kind of for fun, like, what's the meaning of life? Because he
Yes.
usually had really funny answers to really deep questions. But he answered me seriously, and I'll never forget it. And he said, Mom, the meaning of life is to experience life.
At
And
5?
at 5, yeah, he's a pretty deep thinker, but I've thought about that my whole, ever since then. And yeah, out of the mouths of babes, right? Because when we ask them these more like deeper questions, it's such a fun experiment as a parent to just be like, instead of how was your day, or did you brush your teeth, or did
Did
you
you do your
all the questions
homework?
right? Like instead of just kind of dictating to them, really listen to them, ask some questions like, how, what is bringing you the most joy right now? What are you loving? What do you love most about playing outside with your friends? Or, those kind of questions. It helps them start to think and get connected with what makes them happy, what brings them joy. And the truth is, we can do a lot of different things in our lives, and we might be kind of mediocre at some of them. Other things we might really excel at.
Mhm.
But when all is said and done, like you don't want to look back at your life and have regrets that, oh, I wish I had done
Yes.
that thing, or I quit singing because someone told me I had a terrible singing voice, or like I really wanted to be an ice skater, but I was scared, or whatever it is, or your parents tell you you can't really have a career being a poet, or like mine told me, those kind of things. And instead, yeah, do it because it brings you joy. So you can leave your children like that legacy of really experiencing life.
I love that. I just heard a quote, everyone dies, but not everybody lives. And I thought,
Yeah,
wow, if we allow our children, and it is judgment, right? Well, how can they make a career? Are they going to be able to pay the bills?
right.
You're not good at such and such. And then how do you think a parent can just one thing? Because I think it is hard, especially during the pandemic. You're not turning on your camera. You're not, doing, your distance learning homework, or not even caring. But a lot
Yeah.
of people have a hard time caring because it is. I was coaching a mom, and I opened the door to my student, and it was banned.
Hmm.
And she's just like this super smart person. And I'm like, what's going on? We have
Oh.
it on pause. And the teacher's like, yeah. So, making the sounds. Okay. So everyone, what we're going to do next is, and I thought, you can do it. I just closed the
It's
door.
so hard. I mean, I feel for children. They, especially younger children who really are still learning social cues. They need to see our
Yes.
faces. Being on a screen has always been a bad thing for children, and now it's mandatory, to do school. They have to do that. So again, I think it's really accepting things are not great right now and trying to add some balance to it. Like instead of telling children, no, this is going to be great. Come on, Zoom is so fun. And you're going to just accepting, like, yeah, this. Hope this is okay to say, but
Yeah.
this kind of sucks. Like I
Yes.
get it. Like, but it's not going to be this way forever. And
Right.
you've got me and I've got you, and we can still read a book together. We can go for a walk in the park. We can go for a swim in the ocean. Doing those things are going to let them know that even though it's been a scary time, that you're there for them and that, it's not going to be this way, yeah, for always. And they're still safe. They're safe because of your love and meeting them where they are. Not being afraid to fail, I think, is a really important lesson too. If not everything is going great with Zoom school or whatever is going on in their lives, like that's okay, because everything is a lesson, no matter what it is.
Yes.
Even if you in your mind you failed that lesson, you never really do, because you learn from it. And have been gifts like this past year and a half or so. There are gifts that come out of it where I think people are more compassionate. I've noticed
Yes.
we have a deeper appreciation. I'm like lifetime introvert. I can't wait to go out dancing with my friends, go to a party, Whereas before I always was like, no, I think I'm gonna stay home and watch Netflix. Like,
Yeah,
but now it's like,
exactly.
okay, I've watched every Netflix show I think there is. Like, I think I'm ready to go out. So I think there's always a flip side and something positive. If you have your health, of course, you're going to be extra grateful right now. Have your family. And so, yeah, there's gifts.
I love that because I think the fear of failure, fear of judgment as a parent though,
Yeah.
when a mom hears or you see it on Facebook, right? Oh my gosh, my child just got into such and such school. She got 13 scholarships. And then, the moms that I coach are, well, my kid is in special ed or my kid just failed. Um, I feel like a failure.
Mm.
What do you say to, because that's a story that is not true.
Right. You said it. It's not true. I mean, we tell ourselves false stories all the time, and usually they come out of either that inner critic,
Yeah.
right? Like that mom is actually judging themselves based on
Yes.
comparing their story with someone else's. So again, it's being authentic. Like when I see people post things on Facebook, every once in a while there's something or an Instagram story where someone's just being really real. Like a mom is just showing the
Yes.
mess in
I
her
love that.
house and
Yeah. Aren't you?
their
Yeah.
kid,
Don't you love that?
they're just trying
I love
drinking
that.
wine in the bathtub without
Yes.
even water in it. They're just trying, and those like people relate to that. They love that
Yes.
because like, thank you. Like we're all trying our best. We're all struggling. Everyone's got challenges. Like there's no perfect anything, right?
Hmm.
And when you're seeing like your child, fail at something again, it's such a lesson for them. And there's something else going on usually too. They need some more sleep or something. We're just all trying our best, and it doesn't define you. Again, those stories, it's all about your mindset and how you're framing that failure, right? I've
Definitely.
I was really disappointed when, stuttering is actually hereditary in most cases. So my dad stuttered, then I stuttered. I think my grandfather even did. And when my son started stuttering when he was 3 and didn't stop, and, the doctors had said, oh, he'll probably grow out of it. It's common for boys. I knew in my heart, it's like, I don't know. I don't know if he is. And honestly, he never did. And I didn't want him to tell himself the same story that I told myself when I was his age, of really feeling just,
Uh-oh, Laura.
oops, yep.
Okay, okay. You just
Oh, we're back.
yeah, we're
Okay,
back. So you
I'm
said
back.
something about you didn't want your son to
Yeah,
believe
I
the
didn't want
story.
him. Yeah, I didn't want him to tell himself the same story that I did, because of my stutter. And even though he inherited that from me. And so I try to just meet him where he is. And I asked him one day, does your stutter bother you? Or do your friends, like, I was so worried about him getting bullied because that
Hmm.
was my story. And I was worried that would be his story. And he's like, no, like, and my stutter doesn't even bother me. My friends just wait for me to finish my sentence. They don't even care. They love me. I'm like, oh, wow, like that's your story. So it's I didn't, but I was about to put my story, which was
Hmm.
negative, onto him. So sometimes our children can pleasantly surprise us, by having a brighter outlook than we do,
When
not
we
bring,
are,
they
yeah,
don't
because
have all that history.
exactly, they don't have
Yeah.
all that baggage, and we just
Yes.
think we're fearing that whatever happened in the past in our lives will happen. Right? I noticed one mom said, "I want to prevent the heartbreak." So she wanted the son to have a relationship in his senior year of high school, so she could be there when his
Mm.
heart was broken to prepare him for after
No.
high
Oh,
school.
oh no.
And she actually told him that I want you to have a girlfriend so that when you break up, I will be there for you. It was my friend's friend. And I
Oh.
said, what?
Oh, no.
But
Yeah.
and so today, yeah, it's I mean, talk about a helicopter hovering like, okay, make your
Yeah.
mistakes with me because I will
Yeah,
save
there's a lot
you.
to unpack there, and hopefully it
A
wasn't a
lot of
self-fulfilling
yeah.
prophecy for that poor kid. Yeah, I know. A heartbreak is gonna happen. We don't need to force that. That's, and when it does happen, you usually don't want your parents there. They'll know.
Yeah, you don't want your
I don't
parents
know.
there. And
I
I
don't know if
remember
you
my
want your
dad
mom.
said, yeah, my dad, you know what my dad said? It's gonna happen again and again and again. And I thought, oh my gosh, how horrible.
I know. It's like, yay, love. Yeah. Oh
But
boy.
oh, thank you so much. I think that, yeah, the main points though is like owning your story, right? And just embracing maybe your authenticity
Yeah,
and meeting your
absolutely.
child. I love that, meeting your child where they are, because I think the majority, a lot of it, yeah, a lot of my parents, the students and their parents watch this, but it's a reminder, I think. It's a
Yeah.
reminder that if you're behind, and this is what happens, right? Your grade level, reading level is 2 years behind, or your reading
Mm.
level, you're in sixth grade and your reading level is 4.6. And it really bothers parents because they think, oh my gosh, you're behind.
No, and here's the thing, there's not gonna be, they're not gonna be 20 and not know how to read and write, all of that,
Yes,
it's everyone's catches up eventually, so it's like meeting them where they are. There is no, by 5 you have to do this. I mean, it's about, to me, the most important thing is actually teaching children kindness, teaching them compassion to each other, teaching them listening skills,
yes,
which is so important right now, helping them grow their attention span so they can actually like pay attention to things when they're bombarded with all these screens all the time. It's much harder. So when I taught school, that was a big part of our curriculum. Not all the parents liked it. They're like, why can't my kid like multiply by 5 yet? I'm like, well, today like we're doing a unit on listening, just
and isn't
listening.
that the number one? Yeah, it's like attention. I mean, really,
Yes,
truly listening, and then empathy. And this is why, the EQ, it's
absolutely.
like now they're realizing EQ is more important than IQ. And
Absolutely.
it's just, we don't realize it because we were so trained. Don't you think? It's like, okay, you need to know
Yeah.
math formula, you need to know how to write a paragraph correctly, you need to, and then maybe that's what it is, though, society's expectations, educational
Yeah,
expectations.
and these things need to be practiced, just like practicing reading.
Yes,
Kindness is action, and it's practicing those skills of how to be kind to someone else who just, stole your toy or whatever it is, and you're mad
yes,
and you want to express, like learning how to express yourself, learning how to, share and just listen to other humans, and getting in touch with how you feel, about things going on around you. Those are important skills, just as important as anything else. And they're often overlooked, and especially with busy parents, like children are kind of plopped down in front of the TV so mom or dad can take a shower or whatever it is,
right,
and
right.
like it's like understandable. But what children want most is our attention. And it's usually the last thing on the list. And I don't mean just like sitting there with them watching a movie, or talking down to them about the things they need to do, but real attention, like really spent with them, really listening to them, putting your phone away, being present for them, even if it's just an hour. That can
Yes.
that can solve so many challenges, tantrums, that all of that. That's what they want most, more than the toy, more than anything else. They want you.
So we'll probably have decrease in behavior problems, right? Decrease in just feeling stressed because they can't
Yeah. Well,
do
because
their
that negative
homework.
attention is just as important because at least you're
Yes.
saying their name. If I'm
Yeah,
like, Kylie,
exactly.
clean your room, like at least, oh, she's paying attention to me. So I'm not going to clean my room. I'll just keep doing, whatever it is. And the children that act out in the classroom, usually they're craving that attention,
Hmm.
and if you listen to yourself as a teacher or mom, you're shouting their name, right? Because they're in
Yes.
trouble and everybody's looking at them. Well, that's attention. And children actually get like a little addicted to that. Like they want that. And so that behavior is not going to change. So instead, it's about rewarding like that good behavior, like, and showing them loving attention when that does happen. Like, I really loved the way you shared just now. I really loved how kind you were to your friend just now. Then they start to learn, oh, like that feels good too. That
Yeah,
feels
everyone wants,
better.
yeah, the compliments, right?
That feels better, right? Yeah.
Well, where
Uh,
can people find you? Because if we, anyone out there who needs presentation coach, or they want someone who helps them tell their story, or even it sounds like as an educator, you could probably help their children with speech, that, number one fear, right? Speaking in public. Do you
Yeah,
do that?
absolutely.
Is it
I do. I've
just
actually done
adults, or is it?
workshops. Yeah, no, I've done workshops for high school students on public speaking, for post high school, like kids that are needing help with job
I was
interviews
going to
and
say job
college
interviews that,
interviews.
yes.
Yeah, and I've worked with, younger generation too, just getting out there, starting their own business, that type of thing, doing story marketing for them. I love it. I love all of that. I'm an open book. You can find me pretty much anywhere. I mean, we're sharing, I do live public videos on Facebook every day, so you can learn
Wow.
everything more
So
than you
you're
probably
just
want to
Laura
know.
Reid, Laura Reid,
Yeah,
and
so
then what
Laura
about
Reed,
the
my
Instagram?
website, yeah, my
Oh no, we just lost you again.
business is called Story Forth, all together one word, and my
Story
website
fourth.
is Story Forth. Oh no. Okay. Here? Yeah,
Oh
my
yeah, yeah.
website is Storyforth. Yeah, so storyforth.io. That's the extension
Okay.
there, IO. Am I still here? I think I am. Okay.
Yes,
So yeah,
yes.
you can find me through that and email me through that. Reach out to me, whatever you'd like. I'm on LinkedIn, um, everywhere else, Instagram. So yeah, you can find me.
Thank you. This is so
You're
much
welcome.
fun.
Thank
And what a
you.
great reminder. It's like, yeah, accept children where they are. I'm going to start saying that because I think we want children to be where we think they should be.
Yeah, everybody. I mean, every human, even the other people in your life who are grown up, like when you meet people where they are and really
Yes.
accept them where they are instead of trying to kind of change them or
Yeah.
get them to be where you want them to be. I think in general, it's a good life rule.
I love that.
So,
I'm going to make that my life rule. It'll
thank
reduce
you,
a lot of
Karen.
stress, right?
Oh,
Thank you so
thank
much,
you for
Laura.
having me. Yeah,
Thank
thank
you
you so
for your
much. It was so
time and
fun.
sharing. I love this. Okay, take care.
Absolutely. Okay.
Okay,
Aloha.
bye.